With the fall of Morgoth, called Melkor in elder days, came the breaking of the lands of Beleriand, and much that once was became lost.
The Edain,
the human tribe who traveled west and fought the Dark Lord alongside the elves, were now displaced and in need of a home. The Valar rewarded their loyalty by raising the island of Numenor from under the sea.
The Edain
became known as the Númenóreans and were led by Elros, son of Eärendil, who was crowned their first king. The royal line of kings in this new land were blessed with long life as a consequence of their ancestor, Melian the Maiar, who was among the first to travel from Aman to Middle-earth in search of the children of Ilúvatar. She found the elves and fell in love with one, whom she married. In later days, they would be called the Dúnedain, and were known as the blessed and powerful rulers of a mighty kingdom. With Morgoth banished, his evil works continued through the second Dark Lord, Sauron, who would take up the cause of his master by continuing to seek the corruption and domination of Arda. Sauron set to crafting the Rings of Power. He tricked the elf Celebrimbor into crafting the rings, in which he imbued his own evil. 3 were made for the elves, given to the highest among them, 7 for the dwarf lords, greatest among their clans, and 9 for the rulers of men, who would forevermore be known as the Doomed. For Sauron had yet another ring made, and in this one he imbued so much of himself that without the ring he could no longer exist. The one ring was crafted to rule all the others,
made in the fires of Mount Doom.
Yet when he put on the ring, they did not all act as he had hoped. The elves felt his presence attached to their rings and took them off, fearing his influence. The dwarf lord simply did not respond to his touch and could not be made obedient. Yet the 9 chosen of men were indeed turned to evil. They became the Ringwraiths, also known as the Nazgûl, who would serve Sauron and lead his armies to war. Sauron set to conquering the elves, but the newly formed kingdom of Numenor rose to their defense. Together the armies of elves and men defeated Sauron, capturing him and taking him to Numenor as a hostage. Yet little did they know this was all to Sauron's plan, for once he was held in the royal court of Numenor, he used his wit and cunning to manipulate others and founded the cult of Melkor, to which he became high priest. As Numenor expanded, they brought with them culture and protection. Yet over the years they became little more than tyrants, and those that were once wise and good-hearted became greedy and resentful towards the elves and the Valar for their immortality. The Númenóreans also came to resent the bans set in place by the Valar that forbid men from crossing the sea to Aman. Sauron used this information to twist the mind of Ar-Pharazôn, last of the Númenórean kings. He convinced the man to wage war against the Valar by building up a great army and crossing the sea. King Ar-Pharazôn was the first man to set foot in the continent of Aman, and the result was terrible to behold. Ilúvatar himself struck down the king's armies and buried them in the shores of Aman. Numenor was destroyed and the world broken so mightily that its shape changed to a sphere. Sauron's body was also destroyed in the disaster, and his spirit returned to Mordor, where it would slowly regain power. 9 ships of Numenor were spared from the disaster. Those that did not take part in the attack on Aman were called the Faithful, and they established the kingdoms of Gondor and Arnor to be ruled by the Dúnedain kings. Over time, Sauron once again rose to power, using the One Ring to command great armies of darkness that he set to war against elves and men. The last alliance was formed and laid siege to his fortress at Barad-dûr. For 7 years he was trapped behind his walls, before at last he came out to meet the enemy armies. Sauron slew the High King of Gondor, Elendil. He also killed Gil-galad, king of the elves of Middle-earth. Yet Isildur, son of Elendil, took up his father's sword and cut the One Ring from Sauron's hand. Without the ring, Sauron's body collapsed, and Isildur had this one chance to destroy the ring and eliminate the evil of Sauron once and for all. Yet against the advice of his friend, the elf Elrond, he kept the ring for himself, and Sauron's spirit was once again returned to Mordor, where he would bide his time, rebuilding his strength, and sending his minions to search for the Ring of Power. At the end of the Second Age, Isildur lost the ring, and was slain in an orc attack. The ring fell into the Anduin River, and there it remained, lost for a time.